All right, greetings, friends of the apocalypse. This is Jared the Apocalypse Nerd Wallace for Podcast at Ground Zero, your home for the apocalypse, for episode number 66, Fallen Land. Fallen Land? Yes. I want to say lands all the time. Fallen Land board game. As we know, again, I am the Apocalypse Nerd. He is Adam Bomb Glancy, and he is our special guest. The third gentleman there is John. What? Last name again, John?
John Longren. And the name of the game is Fallen Lands, a post-apocalyptic board game.
Oh, that's the full name. Okay, see, I'm getting it right already. But
we are nothing but professionals here at Podcast at Ground Zero.
Hey, but the banner says land. I don't see an S there. So
it's right underneath it, a post-apocalyptic board game.
No. The lands. You said lands. I see land.
Fallen Land, yeah.
He said land.
Oh, he did. I thought he said lands. I don't know. I can't. I'm going deaf. So John's here from Fallen Dominion Games. They've produced a board game called Fallen Land, and they did a Kickstarter. What about a year and a half ago? 2 years ago at this point? A year and a half ago? I don't remember.
About a year and a half ago. It would have been July through September 1st, I think, something like that.
Of 16?
Of 2016, yeah. That's when we first met, was at Gen Con 49 last year, I believe.
Yes. So John's got this massive board game, really crunchy stuff with a post-apocalyptic setting, so we wanted to get him onto the show to talk about his game. We'll give the rundown, let you guys know what it's all about and where you can get it. So, but just only a couple of brief things from in the news. Like one I was showing Scott and him, John before was, I went back to, because I've been seeing all this stuff, everybody talking about with the Mutant Crawl Classics role-playing game coming out for Appendix N, because, in the old Dungeon Master's Guide, they had Appendix N, which had the recommended reading list. Now, that's mostly fantasy. There's actually one or two post-apocalyptic books on there, but it's mostly fantasy. Now, where I got my first reading list of books was book number 3 of the Aftermath role-playing game. It had a glossary in the back of books, and that's where I really started tracking down books, because there was all kinds of stuff on there, like Hyra's Journey, Starman's Son, a lot of Long Afternoon of Earth, a lot of books. Because remember, this came out like in late 70s, early 80s, like late 70s. So it's a lot of older books. But that's where I first started going to use bookstores and tracking them down. Now, for some reason, I was never able to find this one particular book. So I went back. I was looking at the list, and I'm like, oh, I never found that book. And there was this one book called Some Will Not Die. It was kind of like a plague apocalypse game, and a book, and I tracked it down. It was printed like in the mid 70s, and they had a lot of printings through the 80s. But I got the one that came out, like I believe it was 79, because it just had this. I got it for like $2. It had this awesome men's adventure. I have all the guns and some. What is it, Scott? Was it some assholes?
Some jackass's goggles.
Some jackass's goggles on. So. I tracked this down because, again, it's something that, 35 years ago I was looking for in used bookstores, and I forgot about it. So,
welcome to the internet age.
Yeah.
You can almost find anything.
Got it on eBay. So now I got that to read amongst, I have like a stack of post-apocalyptic books I got to read. That's like, I can't even, show you. It's so big. And the only thing apocalyptic that I got my copy of The Thing.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. I demoed this at Gen Con, really liked it, so it's now out, so I got my copy of it. I was going to get the special edition that Mondo Tees was putting out, just because it had some extra stuff in it, like some extra figures and some play, and a whole bunch of other crap, but for double the price, I'm like, no way. I'm not paying for 2 extra plastic pieces. I'm not paying double the price, so I just got the regular version. Even though I like having everything, I'm not paying twice the amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the model. That's how they do it. So So that's it. I just want to keep it brief because I want to get into John and talk to John's game. So, because also I'll get more information because probably people might have seen by the time they listen to this. I made a post before the show. I'm going to start doing these little segments called Transmission from the Bunker because I'm lazy and I hate writing stuff out. So I'm just going to do these little snippet videos of stuff like to share information with you guys. And I go all about it in this post. And it's kind of set up like the last one I did. It's all kind of cheesy with like a VHS starting point at the beginning. And now I've added this 80s, splash page in the like video beginning with some synth pop music in front of it. So it's really cheesy. You have to check it out. So,
All right.
So I'll be doing a lot of those transmissions from the bunker, just to convey information. And I explain to people how I'm going to be doing changes. Like I'm not posting on the, events anymore. And everything's going to be through the blog. And I'll talk about that at the end again. So, but let's get to the meat of it. Let's get talking to John. So first thing we want to know, John, is we want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is John Lundgren. I am the CEO of Fallen Dominion Studios. I am also the co-creator of Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game. Right here.
Jesus.
And folks, he did grunt like that because the box is that heavy.
It is. It is shockingly heavy once you get your hands on it. It feels like just a phone book. Like it's paper all the way down. It's not, but it is. It is weighty. It is a weighty.
It's the size of a Catan box, but it's 5.75 pounds of post-apocalyptic love in a box. And then we got our expansion here, which is A Journey into Darkness, and it allows for solo gameplay and a 6th player. And there's like 2 different solo variants in there. And A
Journey into Darkness. It sounds like that should be like the title of like a Deathland, one of the Deathlands books.
I am a huge James Axler fan. That's actually, I read a lot of those as a child, and I think several other authors, wrote for that series in the latter years through Gold Eagle Books. I think it was Gold Eagle Publishing, Gold Eagle Books, something like that.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. I could go all into my problems with what happened to Deathlands when they changed, when they started rotating the authors, when Axler stopped writing it themselves, and nobody kept continuity, and everybody just kind of did their own thing. That was a huge problem for me. But
yeah, Pilgrimage to Hell. After I read that, I was just hooked. I mean, that's the very first one, if I remember correctly. It's been years, but
it came out in summer of '86. And I got in the bookstore. I was like, oh, what is this? This looks really cool.
The artwork is always awesome, too. I love comic art. I love Pulp Fiction. Gotta love it.
All right, cool, John. So the next big question would be now is, can you give us a high-level overview of the game so people know what is this game about? What is this game? Just give us that 10,000, foot sales pitch on the game.
Most of my best sales pitches are, being able to hand the box to someone and wave my hands around and stuff, but I'll give it my best shot here. Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game, and A Journey into Darkness. It's a very thematic game, just dripping with theme, for 2 to 5 players. You are the leader of one of 10 different factions in the aftermath of post-apocalyptic America. It's a sandbox-style board game. You go anywhere, do anything. You're not only growing and building your town as a leader, you're protecting your citizens. You're also sending out a party of your adventurers or agents into the field to actualize your agenda. And so there's, adventure, economics, diplomacy, politics, bribery, backstabbing, alliances. It's a fully immersive post-apocalyptic experience, and we like to think that the 13 years it took us to make this, that it's a fully immersive post-apocalyptic experience, basically.
It's apparently it was a labor of love. If you said it took 13 years to flush it all out and get it in people's hands.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's as a writer, you just have to get it out of your head sometimes, and that involves a lot of late nights, burning the midnight oil, trying to work around family, 80-hour week worth of jobs, and just, you got to be passionate. And Sean Cahill is also the co-owner of Fallen Dominion Studios, and he is also the co-creator. He couldn't be here tonight, but he sends his regards to the both of you. And
it's a good guy. I got to talk with him a lot more than I got to talk with you at Gen Con, and really enjoyed it. Good guy.
He's a hell of a great guy. I've known him for about 30 years. We've been really close friends, and I couldn't think of a better partner to do a crazy project like this than one of your good friends. And and it's a really interesting friendship. We've been able, it's oftentimes really hard to manage both a good friendship and business, but we just have a really cohesive working relationship and a great friendship, and it's seen us through a lot of stuff in the process of creating, this game. And I'm really thankful for his role in this, which is a very large role,
Cool. Absolutely. That sounds good. It's good to have good friends for the apocalypse. So
keep your friends close.
Keeps your friends closer, keep your apocalypse closer, right?
Yeah, we have a really phenomenal team at Fallen Dominion Studios. We have Warren Ripley, the art director, Patrick Phillips, who did a bang-up job of play testing. We got our editor-in-chief, Bill Pitcher, and Bones Jones did some game analytics. And, then there's also just tons and tons of people helped us along the way. We're so thankful for all of their roles that they played. And, yeah, we couldn't have done it without them, so.
Cool. Sounds very good. Sounds like you got a good team going there. So, yeah. But now that we know what the game's about, can you tell us what inspired you to create this game?
Oh gosh, back in 2005 when we started creating this game, we naively thought that we'd be done in a year, and it turned into 13 years.
Yes, so over here at Pagan Publishing, I'd just like to point out that that's a painful revelation every single time, because every project is going to be like, we're going to be done with this in 6 months.
Yeah, it's you gotta love what you do. We got a couple expansions planned. We have some other games in the works, and you'll be seeing a lot more of us. But right now we've been kind of on hiatus in the creative aspect of things, and we've been dealing with more of the business end of things for a little bit longer here, and then we're gonna return our focus back to get those creative juices flowing again, and it's going to be exciting, and we can't wait to do that, because that's the not so fun part of being an entrepreneur. And I know you guys know what I mean. So
oh yeah, yes, we're always hoping that I can do the creative stuff and then someone else will do all the boring stuff, right?
No, that's why I don't get half my stuff done, because I'm a great idea man, but when it comes to actually effort, it's like
Yeah, dude, you've cranked out a hell of a lot more stuff than I have. So I don't know how
cliche as it is, it's like 3% inspiration and 97% perspiration. I mean, the fun stuff, it's just you have to learn everything. You need to know how to do everything, and it's a lot to learn. I'm no expert.
Sir.
Well, cool. All right, and so.
Let me ask one question in here.
Go.
You picked a post-apocalyptic theme, and I'm curious. It seems like, based on the richness of this, that what came first was your love of the apocalypse, and that after you established that you were clearly, radioactive cannibalistic mutant in the wasteland that you were going to do something apocalyptic no matter what it was. So I guess I'm thinking, I want to ask, was it the theme that was it the apocalypse that drove all of your choices on art, mechanics, play style, things like that?
That's a really tough question to answer, Scott. I would say, ultimately it boiled down to the fact that we really wanted to lay some solid bedrock down in the genre. And, back in 2005, there wasn't a lot of stuff. There was, I'm a big fan of the very first sandbox style board game, which was Wasteland. And, Sean and I both, we love that. We love, the Deathlands. And really, there was a few games out there, like Fortress America, and, was,
you got that.
There's a few other, RPGs. You already mentioned a couple of them, After Fall, there was, the TSR version, which was Gamma World, which I played, from a very young age, like since 1978, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons. Same thing with Sean, and that's probably where it got started, like the love of fantasy and things along those lines.
Oh, speaking of Gamma World, John, since you love Gamma World, okay, can you see behind me? Let me see if I could point it out here. Okay, see that second shelf from the bottom?
Yeah.
That is my entire Gamma World collection, which includes all versions, everything in print from Gamma World, okay? There's a stack of magazines on the floor next to it, which are all the polyhedrons that had Gamma World articles, different worlds and other magazines. I have all the Dragon magazine articles that had Gamma World in it. I'm a little obsessive about Gamma World.
I love Dragon magazine. God, that was great.
Oh yeah, did you? Because I used to have a lot on paper, but they all fell apart from use. So now when I look at stuff, I look at on the old.
Nice.
Came out in the early 2000, like 2000, 2001. The digital archive of the Dragon magazine. Do you remember when that came out?
That is awesome. I wonder if they have something like that for heavy metal too.
No, but I have something that was not legal. But I have. Well, they claimed it was a collector's reference guide. It basically had. I got this disc, these CDs off of eBay. It had like every copy of Epic, probably 90% of the heavy metals up to like like the mid 2000s.
Awesome. I love this.
Oh, that was total like Epic magazine, heavy metal.
As
Epic was it
child.
Which one was it that we went for Mutant World? Was that was in 1984, right?
Mutant World was not in either one of those magazines, but it was Richard Corbin.
But it wasn't a magazine called 1984. I remember seeing that. As a
maybe, but Epic had Generation Zero, and then heavy metal had Rebel in it.
Yes.
By Pepe Moreno. But Epic and heavy metal magazines were such fuel and inspiration for my young, vulnerable, post-apocalyptic mind that I loved the apocalypse back then. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
as a child, my parents would, they would send me to my room and take away all of my game material, like that. So, yeah.
That was punishment? That's harsh.
Taking away all my Gamma World and, Dungeons and Dragons stuff and all the, all the role-playing stuff.
Yeah, they quickly learned they couldn't just send you to your room. That was like a vacation.
Yeah, it was. It really was. So getting sent to my room was awesome.
Well, if my parents did that to me, I would call child services for cruelty. So you never take away my Gamma World ever.
Yeah, I don't see that going well.
They can have my Gamma World and they pry it from my cold, dead fingers.
So yeah, I just got in the habit of like stashing the very best stuff that I was currently reading, and then I would just give up the shit I didn't care about, you know.
Oh yes, that is exactly that's a good plan, John.
Here you go. Here's the stuff I don't care about.
And the best part is that you've got so much of it that you can give up some hostages, you know.
Exactly.
That's good.
You're a smart lad.
That is some top shelf nerding.
If you only knew.
Damn, sir. All right, we approve completely. All right, so so it was a lot of this came out of your love of gaming just in general. Now, you were saying that there were plenty of games out there that were touching on the apocalypse theme that were just almost there. Like, you know, Fortress America seems like the start of an apocalypse. Where's the rest of the apocalypse? What do I do after the invasion when someone has to get a broom and clean up this mess? And, you know, some of these other board games, and there were some board games from SPI that were very apocalyptic. Heck, there was Attack of the Mutants, right? Yeah. Which Mr. Wallace had that came in a
your Quinto game, the album games. It's right. It's over there on the third shelf, right there. The tall blue one right there. That is my copy of Attack of the Mutants right there.
Yeah. But there really wasn't anything that basically let you play Civ after the bomb, which God knows I saw a need for that. Okay, 30 years ago. And I really don't think anyone has really stepped up to make this happen until you guys did. I mean, it seems like a giant hole, you know?
It was a giant hole. And, you know, like, we just felt it needed to be filled. And, you know, we kept our noses to the grindstone, kind of flying under the radar. We love to fly under the radar. We love organic word of mouth and growth, stuff like that, you know, like, but there was a need for a game. It hadn't been done before. You know, we kind of, there's a pseudo emulsification of like a strategy board game meets and with RPG elements, and, you know, you're the leader of a faction, plus you have, you know, a party of your characters or agents going out into the field to actualize your agenda, to capture resources, you know, perform.
You know what that part of it reminds me very much of some of the mechanics that were sort of given to us in the computer game XCOM. I was going to say XCOM. I did not play the computer game Wasteland. By the time I realized that Wasteland existed, I was about 9 operating systems too far down the line to get a grip on it. No, so obviously I went and threw my money at the Wasteland 2 Kickstarter and things like that.
They redid it. I mean, so no matter how fast your computer is, and I'm sure it's fast like mine, you know, like, you can still play it. You can still go back and play it, and, you know, it's pretty.
There's a lot of old games I want. There's awesome. A lot of old games I want to do that with. Yeah.
Now,
and this was like a sandbox style game, go anywhere, do anything, and, you know, that blew a lot of people's minds at the time. It was, you know, absolutely amazing.
Now, let me interject for a second here. As you know, you were saying that, you know, because you were kind of saying, you know, what you felt was, you know, back in 2005 when you started your project, you know, what was lacking, you know, in other post-apocalyptic games. This is why you started it. Now, you said it took, you know, 13 years to develop this project, which answers one of the future questions we were going to ask. So we wanted to ask that now. But your timing kind of works out at this point, because 2005, the phenomena that is this board game renaissance that we've been having the last several years, is actually, it's you wind up having it come to fruition at a good time, I think, because if it came out in 2005, you know who knows how well you would have done with it, because, you know, things were just starting to bud. Everybody was still Catan or Carcassonne. You know, I like Carcassonne, by the way, but you know what I mean, like, that was still, things were still starting to grow. But now that it's board games are such a huge thing now. So it's probably a good timing. that your game's coming out now, because people are always looking for new board games, looking for new stuff that's out there, because board games are like the thing, you know. So I think your timing wound up actually being perfect, even though it took a long time, you know. I think we may have lost John.
Did we lose John?
Yeah, I think so, because, well, I see his profile picture, but I don't hear him. So maybe
I also see a mute thing strike through his.
Unless he knew, we completely lost him.
You know what? You were in the middle of saying something nice about him. He couldn't stand the attention, and he was forced to sign out. Clearly, and he's back.
He's back. Oh, we were just talking shit about you. Oh,
man, I don't really like this rule here. Oh wait, John's back. Everything's fine.
I don't know how much you heard before you dropped off, John, but
sorry about that. I have these pop-ups that keep popping up, and they're right above your face. It's really. I touched it, and I went to the link, and I was
hey,
like,
stop touching my face, John. But basically, I don't know how much you heard, but basically, in a nutshell, I just said that I think your timing is perfect for the game coming out now. Even though you started a long time ago, it's good that it came out now, because now there's such a renaissance and people are really always looking for new games. So I think your timing's good. So
yeah, it's it's the golden age of board games right now. It's been referred to as that by a lot of people. Sean and I are really happy that people are really enjoying it. And that's the most important thing to us, is just people having fun. And as a creator, there's nothing more fun, honestly, than to like sneak up on a group of people playing your game and just nonchalantly like watch them enjoying themselves with what you work so hard on, and seeing everything kind of come to fruition. Like we're just glad people are having fun. That's the part. So.
Well, we kind of had something like that happen at Gen Con. We were playing down at the in the hotel lobby. What was it? Fate of the Elder Gods.
Nice.
And one of the creators like, oh, we didn't know it was a creator. It's like, hey, you guys got any questions about that game? It's like, oh no, we just read it. We're learning it. It's like, well, if you have any questions, let me know, because I'm one of the creators of the game. So that was kind of fun. That he popped in and said, hey, you got any questions? I'll be glad to answer them for you. So that's kind of neat.
Oh hell yes.
Yeah. Nobody fanboyed out on him, because our group's really not like that. We're not like, oh, gushing fan. I'm not a gushing fanboy about anything,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're not a gushing fanboy, huh?
Well, no. When it comes to people, and like when it comes to people,
yes, I was about to say, because I can think of a certain zombie shooting SWAT team guy who I think Ken might have another description for you. Well, you weren't that gushing, but you.
No. I mean, it was cool. I met Ken Frey at Gen Con like a number of years ago. And he's a very nice man. He's very receptive to his fans, and he always remembered me. Like I'd always see him at other cons, and he'd always remember me. Like it would take him a second, but he'd be like, oh, Jerry, yeah, how you doing? Like a couple times I saw him like local shows by me. He would be like, come sit down. Like I'd sit down behind his table while he's like working, just talking to me, and like people are coming up to me, looking at me. And I'm like, Ken will be with you in just a second. It was, So I would always make sure to get him a. He liked Johnny Walker Black. So I would always make sure to, if I was going to see him at a show, I'd bring a little bottle for him. So. Very nice man. But no, I'm not one of these people like who falls over people like like screaming fanboys, because like listen, they're people just like everybody else. They did something really cool, but I don't know. Scott, I'm not like that. You know that. You see me around.
No, you don't. And besides, based on our own interactions with our fans, yeah.
Oh my God,
that has taught us some lessons.
Yeah, I want to stab half of them in the face, but
well, all right. So yes. So this game filled a niche that hadn't been filled by board games, and as you said, yeah, we're going through a golden age of board games. But there's one other aspect about board games these days that you've incorporated really well into this game that wasn't around at least it wasn't around when I was first doing wargaming board games, like back in the 80s, when I was still playing stuff from SPI or Avalon Hill.
Yeah.
The
Love that
RPG,
stuff.
it's not just the RPG. It's not just the RPG ideas. Now, Talisman, classic game, had all these characters, these playing pieces that each had their own cheats, ways that they were better at the game than another character, right?
Yeah.
And so that was, that was sort of the genesis of the sort of RPG aspect. But I never got a feeling of a story from Talisman. You know what I mean? Going around that board, going to the inner realms, I never got a feeling of a story from that because I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the lack of not having enough cards, enough variation of encounter. But this
you could develop enough of a narrative,
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
But this thing,
Great game. I love it, by the way.
Yes, exactly. It's a great game, but I don't think they ever intended for it to have a storyline. But games like this game is picked up that gauntlet that so many others these games have had, and has created. So it has an RPG feel to it because there is a through story. It's not just how many turns before I win or how many turns before I lose.
I mean, it is a go anywhere, do anything sandbox style game. You will never, ever, ever play the same game twice. There's 80 different characters with different skills and special abilities and links, and there's 150 action cards which modify the storylines, and there's probably about 600 of my short stories in here. Tons of artwork, and we by design, we were trying to create a game that is going to withstand the test of time, hopefully, and that people are still going to be playing and enjoying, because literally every time you play it, there's trillions of combinations. You are never, ever going to play the same game twice. And
can I also point out that something else that's included in this game is you can get your very own John. There you go. John Lonergan, excuse me. Right there he is. He has his own card, leader of secret organization, and oh wait, look, it's Sean Cahill as well, and it just goes through the list. Warren Ripley, another one of your designers. Patrick Phillips. What's his name? Bones Jones.
Bill Pitcher.
Bill and Monica Pitcher.
Yep.
That's what. Is there anybody else? I couldn't find anybody else out of the credits besides those folks.
I think you got them all, actually.
All right, so
that's funny when you say Bones, is because the way my mind works. What I think of is there was an old crossover band from the late '80s. They were originally known as the FUs. When I say crossover, it's like metal punk crossover. Later, they were known as the Straw Dogs, and their drummer was named Bones. So for some reason, when you're saying Bones, I'm thinking about the drummer from the Straw Dogs.
I would like to point out that Justin Bones Jones' card reads, "Bones, purveyor of ill-gotten goods," and his quote is, "Hooray for you, or hooray for me, screw you."
He's a scoundrel.
That is quite awesome.
But he's a good friend, and yeah, it was kind of an Easter egg. We didn't intend to let the cat out of the bag, really, but we, long after we're gone, hopefully people will still be playing those cards, and we'll live on through the game. We'll see what happens. Time will tell. So.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, I want the guy with the bag of golf clubs who's killing the mutant with the 5-iron. That's the guy I want.
John's a phenomenal golfer. He just had to have his golf clubs with him. So, Casey Jones style, like old.
Hey, look, I understand bringing a golf bag into the apocalypse. Just I would have filled it with assault rifles myself.
Oh, I would have as well. Yeah, for sure.
Well, ammo runs out, so you got to have a backup.
Oh yeah, yeah. Not that's yes. You are correct, sir.
But before we let's not hit the mechanic question just yet. I want to skip around a little bit now. we already talked about how long the project took. I want to ask you about the challenges that you encountered with this project, and then after that, I want to hit to more crunchy stuff. Like, we'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of the game itself. So, what kind of challenges did you face? And I think we've probably touched on some of that already, but if just hit the highlights of what made this a challenge for you to get this out.
Anytime you're creating something, there's a lot of challenges. We self-funded this project for about 12 of its 13 years of existence. So that involved, 80-hour work weeks, every weekend, late nights, early mornings, working around our families with them in mind. My wonderful wife, Wendy Longren, has been fantastic. Sean's wife, Tara Cahill's been fantastic. Our family's been very supportive, but, it's tough. I mean, you are always facing, every day there's new challenges to get past. There was some infighting early on. There was the loss of the tragic death of our second editor-in-chief, Eric Lemke. There's just a ton of challenges anytime you're doing a project, especially a project as massive as this. I mean, people laugh about it and say you should have started with something a little smaller, but this is what we were passionate about, and this is the result. I mean,
hey man, like the old saying I like to say, if you're gonna go over the top, you go all the way. Okay.
Yeah, we're an all the way crew of people here. I can't thank the team enough. Like I said, Sean Cahill is we work so well together. He has skills I don't have. I have skills he doesn't have. And, people like Bill Pitcher, our editor-in-chief, and Patrick Phillips and Warren Ripley and Bones Jones, like all those guys, and the lawyers and everyone involved in this whole project, Allison Werner Smith, Paul Waterman, and just a slew of other people. I mean, it was massive, and it was challenging. And, one of the most challenging aspects of it was, in 13 years, just imagine how quickly technology's advanced. We had to, we had to become masters of 5 or 6 different computer programs and transfer all of our material to the newest and latest and greatest. And thank God for Adobe Suite nowadays. Like, that'll never ever happen again, because we have every single program put out by Adobe, as immediately when it comes out, for the low price of, I think it's $50 a month per person. And, so we'll never have to deal with that again. But back in the day, it's like $1,200 software program.
Yep.
Scott knows all about transferring old files.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible, especially, thank God for InDesign. I mean, InDesign is
yeah.
And, before that we were using just a long string of programs that were half as good. But yeah, it's challenging, and you got to look at yourself every day in the mirror and think, why am I doing this sometimes? But, it's, you at least for me, I can't speak for Sean or the other people on the project, but, like every day it's a challenge. There's new things every day that you face, and you have to overcome them. And as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades. And frankly, we had to just always be learning. We're still learning, I mean,
well, you do it because you're kind of like it's a labor of love, John. Because like this podcast, we've told people it's a labor of love. It's like it took me a couple of years to really kind of get it off the ground to where we even started doing it. And sometimes we don't do it a lot. As you've seen, like sometimes we have huge gaps because of this stuff going on, but we always come back to it because it's something we enjoy doing. And you're doing that because you love doing that. Despite all the challenges, you love that, don't you? You love that game. You love what you do.
I love creating board games. I love writing pulp fiction. I love working with artists. I just love everything about games. And, like I said, been playing them since 1978, everything I could get my hands on. And, I know Sean's the same way. And some of the other members of the crew are also the same way, and we have a really great relationship, and it's been a crazy roller coaster ride with ups and downs, but we always come back strong, and we pulled through and got this beast out the door. I mean, it's almost shocking how massive this game is. I don't know. I'm not the judge. I'm not the judge of me. It's kind of up to the players and people like you folks, but.
Oh, we won't judge you, John.
Yes, I will. I demand satisfaction. This does.
Wait. I'm not judging somebody. Wait.
Yeah, that's where you should probably cut. You should probably cut Wallace and set his blood on fire.
Yeah.
There's probably a card for that somewhere.
Yeah. I do have one question I wanted to ask. It's off the question list.
Sure.
All right.
What? No. You have to stick to the script, Scott.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask about was, you had to make choices, and I do want to ask you about your factions and what went into your thoughts on various factions, but
sure.
I don't want to burn up too much time. But I do want to ask, you had to make a hard decision. And that hard decision was, do I have a hex map for all of North America or just the United States, and leave out Mexico and Canada, so I don't have a Mexican faction or I don't have a Canuck faction? And I was curious, how hard was that something that you considered, or was that something you just blew right past? For me, it would have been a very hard decision to leave out Canada and Mexico.
It's there's probably 12 or 13 versions of the rule book. We wanted to do it right. We feel strongly it's a new style of rule book. I wanted it to be kind of less imperative and more like I'm talking to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that ties into the map because there's also probably about 6 different versions of the map over the years, and that's actually a pretty common question about Canada and Mexico. Who knows what the future will hold? You'll have to wait and see. But for now, it's dark territory. It's not really covered in the game, and time will tell. See what the
perhaps we managed to build the wall, and no one's been over it yet.
Yeah. The short answer, Scott, is America.
Yeah, America. Yeah, well, I get that question. I've gotten that question too about stuff. Why isn't this international? Why did you focus on America? And my answer was, I know what's in America, and if I start talking about Mexico and Canada, I'm going to fuck it up. So
I've been
that's
to
always my excuse.
Probably 14 times in my life, and I've been to Canada probably 7 or 8 times. I have a pretty good idea, but fact remains, we wanted to make this a post-apocalyptic board game, about the aftermath of America, and who's to say that won't happen eventually? But for now, that's what you see is what you get. I guess is the best.
Don't worry, I am not disappointed. But I figured it was one of those things that when you guys are having meetings and talking about it and proposing it, at some point somebody's saying we should totally fill in the rest of that grid square, and someone's saying no, there's got to be a stopping point, because if we fill in Mexico, or Canada, someone's gonna know where's Alaska, and if we fill in Alaska, why aren't we filling in Russia? And it just gets out of control, and then
it does get out of control, and we needed to put some other stuff on the board, like a map key and in the final product we had all the 10 factions for easy reference and so on and so forth. And frankly, there just wasn't enough space. The original board that we designed was probably about twice as big as the one that came in the box, and you should have seen the crazy looks of people when we went to the print shop and had that laminated. I mean, they just looked at us like, "Oh my God, these guys are freaks," But so we shrank the board.
You're doing it right. You're doing it right. If you can baffle.
Cool, man. The tokens were so much bigger, and it was just awesome. At one point, we thought about doing a magnetic token so you could put it up on the wall to clear table space. And, ultimately what you see is what you get. We're really happy with the final product. And
what you see is what you get. You say that like you gave us, like this is one of those Ziploc micro games. Like, like it's the first version of Ogre. I don't think so. This is like
plastic clamshells,
This is like the last version of Ogre. It's huge.
I think it weighs more than the last version of Ogre.
Oh my god!
It's a massive beast. The Kickstarter version was actually 6.75 pounds, and so if you add the expansion in with that, it's almost 8 pounds. It's a beast, and looks are deceiving, and that's why I always whenever I'm at a convention or talking to people or giving my little soapbox spiel and trying to sell the game, I always hand it to people because it is a deceiving box. It's very deceiving, and
it's smaller than the box for the new Fortress America, and it's 4 times as heavy. It's
a sleeper, man.
Now, well, speaking about the box and what's there, let's talk about now. As Scott showed that rule book before, it's a novel. Let's see if you could show that, Scott.
This is the rule book. It's less of a novel and more of a magazine.
Yeah.
Like it's the size of a
novella, but
it is about 40 pages long, but it's actually a really quick read. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from it. I'm not going to toot my own horn on that, but there's 13 different versions of that rule book over the years. This is the final product. Oftentimes in a lot of games, like especially the bigger companies, you see these things rushed out the door and they're just kind of half-assed. And we really, as a small publishing company, Fallen Dominion Studios, it may have took us a long time for our first products, but I think the quality shows. And the rule books, people have said how much they enjoy the style that we used, and there's tons of indexes, tons of references, chock full of artwork and stories and examples. And if you it's one of those games where you do need to invest the time. You can't just dump everything out on the table and jump in. You're going to play it wrong. And the very first bullet point in the startup section of the rule book is read the rule book. And there's a huge debate about, well, that may be insulting to people and so on and so forth, but frankly, you need to do that. And
how is it insulting to tell people if you want to learn the game, read the rules? I don't understand how that's insulting. So
it's a very intuitive rule book. It builds upon itself. You're going to have fun reading it, I guarantee you. It's exciting. I think it's a great rule book, and we've had a lot of positive feedback about it. And everything you need to know is in that rule book. There's been a few little minor errors here and there, but Sean and I and the team were, especially Bill Pitcher had a really good input on the rule book, and I'm just thankful that we have a team of people to back up. I wrote a lot of the stuff, but I have a great team behind me that, I can be as passionate as I want, but I have a team behind me that puts the brakes on and helps me, fine tune all this stuff. And Sean is amazing graphics designer. He does things I can't do. And the both of us, we just really put a lot of love into that rule book, and
it shows. It
absolutely
shows.
Now,
again,
you kind of
an arrogant.
No. You're passionate about it. It's your thing, man. So you kind of talked about it a little bit. I don't want to dig too deep into it because it's too complex of an issue. We kind of wanted, was there anything else, again, from a very high level, about the mechanics of the game? Because, you talk about the rules and the reading. Is there anything, that you'd like to just touch on, again, high level about the mechanics? Because we don't really get the time to dig deep into the rules. Was there anything particular about that you want to highlight? Maybe something that's innovative that you haven't seen in other games. Something you just want to touch on related to your game mechanics.
Nothing is perfect when it starts off, but we've play tested this about 11 years of its 13 years of existence. We came up with what we feel is a very unique D10 system. It builds from characters' base skills listed on the card, and underneath that you attach skill bonuses in the form of spoils cards. Assault rifles, med packs, armor, you name it. Fred Rogers sweater, it's in the game. There's just anything you can imagine. It's going to shock you, the amount of material that we have here. And
some jackasses goggles.
Some jackasses goggles. And and we have a very unique D10 dice system. There's 5 skill check dice rules that kind of form the foundation of our game system. And then there's also D6s involved for movement and damage and so on and so forth. But yeah, I feel like it's a very progressive state game where you're building your characters the whole time. They're getting stronger. Your ability to perform tougher cards, go into more dangerous areas on the map and perform missions and PvP other parties. I mean, it's literally go anywhere, do anything, and it's a heck of a lot of fun, I must say.
Well, I cannot wait to get into this and start mutilating my fellow survivors, or uniting the wasteland, one or the other. I noticed. I wanted to ask you if you had any favorite factions that you were most entertained by, either conceptually or as far as their gameplay.
That's a question I never answer. I don't mean to be that guy, but I don't. Of course, I have my personal favorites, and I'm so tempted to tell you what they are, but I don't want to skew the game in favor of one or the other and kind of ruin it for the players. No,
I get that.
Each faction's unique. It has a unique story on the back. What happened to them. Each faction has starting town technologies and 4 different perks, which only that town can perform. They're like special abilities that kind of make that town really special and that faction really special. And they're very well balanced, through the course of, 11 years of playtesting. And, it really depends. The best way to answer that, I guess, it really depends on your play style. There's multiple ways to play this game. There's optional and advanced rules for the game in the expansion, A Journey into Darkness. And it really we wanted to create a game that could be, the players could tailor the game to their personal play styles and their likes and dislikes. If you hate a mission card, you can take it out of the game. If you hate a spoils card or action card or character, you can put it aside in the box, and there's multiple ways to play. There's longer games. We've even played 10-player games of this. It's about an hour per player. Experienced players can get that down to maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes per turn. Not per turn, but per player. So, four players is a little less than 4 hours. But the first time you play it, it's going to be a little bit longer. But, I'm a big believer in rule books. I read rule books for fun. It's kind of a side hobby of mine. I'm always reading, new rule books for new games that come out and looking for the things that I enjoy about reading the rule books. I won't get too sidetracked, but it's the ability to tailor the game into each player's personal play style is a really unique feature of this game. And no matter how many times you play, you're going to have a unique experience, and it's going to be new and refreshing. And it's not a game where you're ever going to play the same game twice. Basically, I don't mean to keep on saying that over and over again, but that brings
value to the game, because you don't want to play it 3-4 times and be like, okay, well, it's the same game all the time. You want something that's going to give you that kind of variety.
And it's going to be challenging each and every time you play it for different reasons. And the more people that you throw in the mix to vary up your opponents, like the play styles are going to change, you know? I mean, it's pretty unique. I'd like to say that, you know, we're just really happy people are having fun with it. And that's the most important thing, you know? There's something there for everyone. There really is. I mean, that's what kind of blew our minds, is from teenage girls to 82-year-old veterans, like the people who have played it, that's how broad the spectrum of people who have enjoyed this game has been. And that blew my mind, you know, like, I mean, I don't know.
For me, I immediately sort of jumped to the idea that it's this darn story aspect that's going to suck in the widest range of people. But you've still got plenty of resource management. You've got plenty of off-the-board diplomacy. You've got plenty of combat in the waste.
It's just as much a management game as it is an adventure, politics, economics, diplomacy. You know, as the leader of your faction, you're managing your town. I mean, it is up to you. You have to make a lot of hard choices all the time to be successful at winning this game. And, you know, each time you play this game, you're going to discover a new layer of depth to it. There's a lot of interlocking stories. I'm not going to like go and ruin it, the connections and stuff, but you know, there's a depth to this game that I haven't seen before. And
yeah,
and it's been commented on by other people and stuff. Again, I'm not the judge of us, but like, you know, I think players will realize just how deep this game can go after playing it a few times, you know.
Cool.
It really is everything I wanted in a, you know, whenever it was that Fallout first hit Fallout 1, Fallout 2 first came out, my first thought about those games was
1998.
Yeah, was, gee, wouldn't it have been nice if I had some sort of civilization version of this, you know, for the computer, where I start off at my vault and we spread out or whatever, you know. That's the, you know, and that doesn't exist and still doesn't exist. But this does. And this is pretty much the analog version of that I wanted. Right on the money.
Yeah, I think it adds a unique element to, you know, like I said, there's something here for everyone. You know, you're the leader of a faction, but you're also doing all these other things. You're building and growing your town. You're buying town technologies. You're capturing resources. You're sending your party out for adventures and to perform missions. And there's lots of different pieces that are constantly shifting around on the board. So while you may have an advantage to begin with, that advantage will go away shortly as the game progresses. And, you know, anything can happen. I promise you, you will be shocked anytime.
Just throwing open one of these cards for each of the hexes are divided into mountain, city, plains, and radioactive. City or radioactive areas. Just pulling one of these out at random, it's, you know, the bookstore scavenge, and the description before you even get to the challenges and then the successes and failures. First of all, you get giant points for the books you mention in the bookstore. Forcing the doors open to this darkened shrine of the written word, you cautiously enter the store. Dusty rows of well-preserved books stand waiting to be reclaimed. Hemingway, Poe, Fitzgerald, Steinbeck, Lovecraft, Thoreau, jackpot. You also mentioned George R.R. Martin. That's just hilarious. So I'm already happy that you mentioned Lovecraft. So there you go.
I'm a huge, you know, I love H.P. Lovecraft. I particularly love Robert E. Howard. You know, those are things I grew up with.
I love my Lovecraft, but I gotta admit, there's a lot of times Bob Howard brings it in a way that poor old Howard, you know, Phillips never really could, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're both aware, but it's really, they had a really interesting relationship. They were best friends and pen pals, and like I'm sure they fed artistically off of each other, and gosh, I just love all that sword and sorcery and out otherworldly experiences and dangers from beyond. And,
well, it sounds like, John, you're our kind of geek. So
I appreciate it.
yeah, we all think we all come from the same cesspool, so
Google gobble, Google gobble. One of us. We accept you.
Now, just moving on to the last. Again, these are things I think we've kind of touched on a little bit, but just to kind of just like to kind of ask these questions. I want to kind of get the last few questions out of here because we want to start winding down soon. Is what were some of your fictional inspirations for this game? And we've kind of touched on some of that already. Like we talked about heavy metal and epic already, and we just talked about some of your authors that you liked reading. But anything else in particular that stands out regarding any kind of fictional inspirations besides like Deathlands for this game from you?
Yeah, I mean, I love Deathlands, James Axler, just a wide variety of movies, comics. Lucifer's Hammer, Larry Nevin. 1 Second After, I think is William Forsythe. I can't pronounce his name. The Stand, I love Stephen King. A lot of pulp novels, a huge fan of that. And it's just, I can't really pinpoint it. I just have my head is filled with all sorts of stories, and I have to sit down and get them out of my head. And I do that by writing a lot of pulp fiction and getting it down on paper. And,
from experience, I can tell you that works better than drilling a hole into your head.
Oh, like in Pi, how you drill the hole in his head to try to get the numbers out. But
yeah,
that's always a bad idea. Yeah,
that doesn't work. And you mentioned Larry. We did actually do this whole show on Lucifer's Hammer because that's like in our top favorite books. Is that I learned from that how to properly make beef jerky because it needs to be able to be hard enough to be filed to the end and stab a man and kill him. So that's good beef jerky,
Jared, I should have mentioned during the post-apocalypse roundup when we were talking about what's new in the post-apocalypse. There's a YouTube channel which I'm now pulling up. Cooking, 18th century cooking, and it's the Townsends. That's it. You can find it under the heading of Townsends on YouTube. It's this guy, Townsends and Sons, is how they present themselves. But they do a show about recipes from the 18th century, from late 1700s, early 1700s, the frontier, and it is great for anybody out there who's a post-apocalyptic nerd, okay? Because it's all about food that exists without refrigeration. Food that exists,
charcuterie.
Yeah. One of the best ones they did was a show.
It's one of my passions.
What was that?
I love to cook. It's one of my passions. So I love to have people over and cook gourmet food and just play games and
Well, next time they play Fallen Lands, see if you can get them to eat some pemmican. Because they had this.
Pemmican it's much better than beef jerky, regular beef jerky. So,
yeah, pemmican was amazing. They claimed on that show that the stuff could stay, would keep from going rancid for years, and it didn't. The number he threw out didn't make any sense at all to me. He said something like decades, and I'm like, look, man, if you can make a food that's good next year in the 18th century, you win. Okay, that's amazing. But he was talking about.
You have to include honey into that whole conversation too. Like I swear to God, I recall an article a while back where they pulled a clay pot of honey from the time of the pharaohs. From
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I saw that, and
the guys, it was fine. Not only is
Holy
it
crap!
Yeah, I mean it is the best food. I mean, not only is it withstand the test of time, but it's also an antibiotic for wounds. Honey is incredible thing that is definitely should be in your storage area.
So all right, so next thing I need to get for my post-apocalypse survival arrows will be an apiary. I'm gonna have to have some fucking bees.
Yeah,
all right,
for sure.
Well, the way things are going, we may have a bee apocalypse before too much longer. Won't that be awesome?
Oh, yeah. What is this? The 70s with the killer bees coming up from South America? Remember all that?
I wish.
It's more of has to do with some of the big fertilizer companies. Some of the stuff they're putting out is just, it's killing the bees. And as I wanted to, I have several friends who are beekeepers, and I asked the wife, she said no. And I would have done it. I really would have done it. I believe in doing things like that. I have a really big backyard, and I really wanted to do it, but the wife said no, and so what can you do? But
well, we do not.
Bees are dying. It is kind of scary, and it has to do with fertilizers and pesticides and.
That's all fake news. That's not real. But
if we've learned anything, yes, that is fake news.
Yeah.
So something I don't like is fake news. I don't like that. No. But moving on to just the last couple questions, because again, I want to start winding this down here. And again, we've talked about a little bit, about any particular board game inspirations at all for this game.
Personally, I have a lot of inspiration. I can't speak for Sean. I love Twilight Imperium. Christian T. Peterson is one of my heroes. Arkham Horror, big fan. But as far as, I play a lot of board games. None of them really have to do with the topic of this game. There's a lot of, these days, since the last Mad Max movie came out, there's been kind of a revitalization of some of the interest in that regard. But, most games kind of cover one or two, aspects of the apocalypse, and some of them do it really well. I feel like our game kind of brings a full immersive experience and depth to the whole big picture. And that's kind of something I think that, at least I'm hoping that we captured it and did a good job. And, we're hoping that this is a game that withstands the test of time, and, we'll see what happens. We're not, it's really up to the gaming community to how their thoughts on it. I could talk all day about this game and be happy to do that, but what can you do? I don't know.
You'd rather be playing it.
So now I think we probably touched on this a little bit here because we talked about the storytelling in this game. So do you think board games can tell stories as well as role-playing games?
That really depends. That's a really tough question, Jared.
Well, we ask tough questions here, John.
Oh, you do. You very much do. I would say most board games cannot tell a story as well as an RPG, but I feel like our game can tell stories just as well as an RPG. We've had a couple players mention that they're using some of our cards for their RPGs. There's probably 600 of my short stories in this game. Each one is a completely unique experience. It has a lot of depth, and, there is a large role-playing game aspect. The feedback so far has kind of been that there's a lot larger RPG element than than maybe our biased view of the material. But I would say yes, our game can tell a story, and it does tell a story. It's a very story-driven game, and each and every time you play it, you're going to have a unique series of stories that can be modified by action cards throughout the gameplay by other players, and you're never going to have the same experience. And I feel like they're pretty compelling stories, and it's been pretty positive feedback. People are really enjoying them, and that makes all of us at Fallen Dominion Studios really happy. And it's really been a labor of love, man. What can I say?
Oh, absolutely. Here's an important question that I would like to ask, and we could see the answer already, is where can people find out more about the game? And more importantly, where can people go to obtain your game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are big on social media, but our official website is www.fallendominionstudios.com. We halted our progress on revamping the website, but it is almost done. We're completely overhauling the website, so we're going to have a brand new website here soon. But our current website, again, is www.fallendominionstudios.com. On Facebook, I am a big believer in Facebook. We have Fallen Dominion Studios LLC Facebook page. There is just literally a 13-year history of pictures and games and material for people to explore on our Facebook page and on our website. People can buy the game from our website. It'll take them to Amazon.com. We're in the process of negotiating both nationally and overseas with game distributors right now. And there's a lot of different places you can get their games. Also, friendly local game stores. We're getting calls every day about carrying our products, so we're getting those out as quickly as we can to retailers. Like I said, we're big believers in your friendly local game store and retailers. In addition to, we're also big fans of Amazon, and despite some of the problems associated with Amazon, it's a great platform to be able to sell your products on. So there's a lot of different places you can get the game. The full PDF versions of both Fallenland, a post-apocalyptic board game, and its expansion, Journey into Darkness. Both those rule books can be viewed and downloaded at www.fallendominionstudios.com. And, we encourage people who are watching, if you enjoy a post-apocalyptic material, go take a look, see what you think. I mean, we hope you'll like it.
Yeah, no, that's a good option. So people could go to the site, look at the rules beforehand and see if that's something that's up their alley,
Yeah, and, we also are on Board Game Geek. We've gotten an 8.8 rating on Board Game Geek.
Wow, it's impressive.
That's a great rating. There's also a YouTube channel. I must admit right away, right now, that making videos is not our strongest suit. We have means in which we're addressing that issue, but there's videos. There's a lot of game reviewers like Robert Oren just reviewed our game recently. He's a titan. Forrest Bauer. There's probably about 15 more reviews rolling in here in the next few months. People have been fantastic to work with in that regard. The reviewers have really enjoyed the game, and that makes us really happy because ultimately, we wanted to create a game for the gaming community, the broader gaming community, for them to enjoy. And so far, people are really enjoying it, and that makes us really happy. So we aim to please,
Well, we hope that this broadcast reaches dozens, nay, scores of people who help to empty your warehouse a little bit more.
Hey, we got like over 500 followers on YouTube, so somebody's going to see it.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we're getting up there. It's like for a bunch of guys that just kind of do this when they can. I think I think that's a decent amount of people that have followers, right? I mean, we're not like all these people who are professional YouTubers who have tens of thousands of millions of followers. But hey, for just a couple of schmucks who just do this when they can, having 500 people follow us, I'm impressed.
I want to say I really enjoy your guys' show. I'm a big fan, Jared, and a big fan, Scott. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I know, Jared, we've spoken 3 or 4 times, and Scott, I think we've spoken a couple times too. We just really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for inviting me on the show to ramble on about our game. And
no, of course, John. We enjoyed having you. Again, it fits the subject matter, which is good. And like I said, we've talked several times. You're a nice guy. You're a good guy. You're our type of guy. So we love helping our friends out and getting the word out of a good post-apocalyptic game to the post-apocalyptic fans out there. So again, we appreciate you spending your time with us. I know you have tight schedules because with work and stuff like that. So I'm glad we were able to get a time down to where we could get this get this on celluloid.
It's been a real pleasure, you guys. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. I really hope that you both can enjoy the game for years to come, and anytime you ever want to do this again, please let me know. And I would love to do this again sometime. It's been fantastic, and certainly both of you, please don't be strangers. We're friends. I'm a big fan of both of you, and thank you.
We will put you back in this show as soon as you give us half an excuse.
Well, I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. So again, folks, John from Fallen Dominion Studios, Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game member. The main stopping point is FallenDominionStudios.com is where you can find out more about the game, get those rules, and that'll give you links out to the social media and where to buy, where you could, if you want to buy the game, and we hope some people do. That's where they could find that. So again, great conversation, John. Again, we really appreciate you spending the time with us and having you on. Just a couple of last little things for folks. Now that we're rolling again, me and Scott are going to get another show down the pipe. I'm currently we just covered Shift. I'm working my way through Dust because I want to get reading that because I'd like to get down to Dust and review that.
Cool. Yeah, I saw the miniatures for that. It looks phenomenal.
Oh, different Dust. But I know the Dust you're talking about. You're talking about the sort of gear Krieg miniature stuff.
Mechanized.
Yeah,
I'm an old school BattleTech player from the paper cardboard years on forward to mechwarrior.com. I'm on there.
Good Dust, but different Dust. There's a post-apocalyptic novel, so we're gonna get doing that soon. And I also mentioned on my last, I just posted a segment of Transmission from the Bunker where I talked about how we're gonna start doing some shows called Off Topic. Because as you well know, folks, and I said it in the thing that we go off topic all the time. So we're just going to have a show where we just talk off topic. We're not going to have a focus. We're just going to talk about shit, and we're gonna bring friends on, possibly like maybe we'll get John on this to have a conversation with us. Let's talk about stuff. Or maybe
on again. I really would. This has been really fun, you guys. And
oh, absolutely. No, we so thoroughly enjoyed having you. So we're gonna do shows like that, folks. I also want to, Scott, I want to do, I was thinking about the other day, do a rewatch soon of The Day.
Okay.
I don't think we ever talked about The Day, but, there's a lot about that movie that I liked. Yeah. So I think we should do a little, do a little review of The Day, because that's a fun movie that I've been wanting to rewatch again. So, okay. So we got some stuff lined up, folks, that we're going to do. So, but that's going to be it for us for this week. Again, thank you, John. We appreciate all your time. And, best of luck with going forward with getting your game growing, getting. Hope this gets you some exposure. We really do. We want you to do well. We want our friends to do good. So that's what we try to help when we can. So
buy his product.
So he's John.
I'm Scott. And this is the game, in case anyone's wondering what comes in the box. There's all these goodies over here. Holy
Big.
crap. It just goes on and on and on and on. Yeah, that's the game, kids.
That's the
Buy it.
game. So that's the game. That's Scott. I'm Jared. And that's it, folks. We're going to see you next time. So in the meantime, stay safe out there. See you in the wastelands. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Take care, guys. Thanks again.